Hi everyone! Today I'm sewing and sharing a cute little shirt dress from one of my favorite pattern books. This book is called Stylish Dress Book and it includes 26 different patterns, including of course dresses, but also blouses and tunics. There are some unique and distinct styles that are easy to sew with great instructions, and all of the patterns are included in a neat little envelope in the back. I'll leave the link to the book below if you want to pick one up and sew this dress along with me today. If you have a favorite pattern book in your sewing library, feel free to share in the comments. I'd love to check it out too. And for now, let's get started sewing this shirt dress. You will need one front piece cut on the fold, one back piece cut on the fold, two sleeves mirrored, one back yoke cut on the fold, one pocket, one collar cut on the double fold, and one piece of interfacing cut on the fold. Two neckbands cut on the fold, and two neckband interfacings cut on the fold, and 6 half-inch buttons. The front piece of our dress has an integrated placket, so I'm going to cut on the vertical and horizontal lines provided on my pattern piece so I can fold and gather the pieces to create a button placket on the front. Now that I've made my vertical and horizontal cuts, I'm going to fold each placket piece 1 inch and then 1 inch again, give it a good press, and then top stitch close to this inner edge. Do this folding, pressing, and top stitching for both sides. Now that my plackets are sewn, I'm going to baste the horizontal line underneath the placket area, starting from one notch indicated on the pattern all the way to the other notch using the longest stitch on my machine, leaving thread tails at the end to gather. Now I'm going to gather and start pinning the gathered portion to the placket portion. On each side of the gathered edge, there's a little triangular extension, almost like a dart. I'm going to start pinning there, just as I would pin a dart, through one side of the leg and out the other side. Do this on both sides. Now that I've pinned and secured those dart-like areas, I'm going to overlap the button plackets so that the right is over the left when you look at it from the right side. And I'm going to place a pin. And now I'll gather the center to fit the placket area. Once it's the same size and the gathers are distributed evenly, go ahead and pin. Now take it to your machine and sew along the dart and gathering lines that you transferred from your pattern piece. Now that it's sewn, we have a nice built-in placket and center gathers on the front of our dress. I'm going to go ahead and serge these raw edges together and then press this seam up toward the top of the dress and top stitch to keep it nice and flat. Now I'm going to prepare my pocket piece. I'm going to take it to my iron, press the top edge down 1 inch, and all of the other edges in 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to top stitch the top edge of my pocket about 5/8 of an inch. I've transferred the pocket placement markings from the pattern piece onto my front bodice. I'll go ahead and place pins at all the corners so that I could see these markings from the front side. Now with pins as my guide, I'll flip it over and place my pocket within that guide and pin it in place. Then I'll take out my guiding pins and take the pocket to my machine and sew all of the edges, leaving the top free. Now it's time to gather the back piece and attach the back yoke. I'm going to take it to my machine and sew basting stitches with the longest stitch on my machine, remembering to leave tails at either end, from one notch and stopping at the other notch. Now I'll take my yoke piece and place it right sides together with the back of my dress and start pinning from the edges to each notch. And then I'll start pulling my gathering stitches so that the rest of the dress fits perfectly with the yoke. Once it fits, go ahead and pin. Take it to your machine and sew your yoke to the back of your dress with a 3/8 inch seam allowance, then serge, press the seam up toward the yoke, and top stitch. Now place the front of your dress right sides together with the back of your dress and pin your shoulder seams. And sew your shoulder seams with a 3/8 inch seam allowance, serge, and press toward the back and top stitch just as we did for the back yoke. Take your dress to the serger, sew all 4 side seams separately, and then we're going to sew them together and press the seams open. So now I've serged each of my edges and pinned those side seams. Now I'll sew each side seam with a 3/8 inch seam allowance and press the seams open. And here's what it will look like on the inside. Now it's time to hem the bottom of your dress. Take it to your ironing board and fold it over 3/4 of an inch, and again 3/4 of an inch. Once it's pressed, top stitch all along the bottom of your dress close to this inner fold. Now go to your ironing board and apply your interfacing to both of your neckband pieces and the upper part of your collar. Now fold your collar piece in half right sides together and pin the outer short edges. Stitch the edges with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Once you've sewn your edges, clip the corners, turn it right side out, give it a good press, and then you're going to top stitch all around the sides and upper edges, about 1/8 of an inch away from the edges, keeping this bottom section open. Take one of your neckband pieces to your ironing board and fold up and press the bottom edge 1/4 of an inch. Now that one of my neckband bottom edges is pressed up, we're going to attach them both to the collar piece. With your neckband pieces right sides together, sandwich your collar piece in between them, matching center backs, and pin. Continue pinning the upper raw edges as well as the short side edges. Now sew the side and top edges with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now that the collar is attached to the neckband, I went ahead and turned the neckband right side out, gave it all a good press, and now it's ready to be attached to the dress. Attach the side of the neckband that is not folded right sides together with the neck edge of your bodice, and pin, matching center backs. Continue pinning the neckband from the button placket all the way to the other button placket. Sew your neckband to the neck edge with the 1/4 inch seam allowance. And once that's sewn, take that interior folded neckband piece and place that fold so that it just covers the stitches we just made on the other side, and pin. Continue pinning all the way across. Once it's pinned, take it to your machine and stitch in the ditch of the seam we just sewed so that you're catching this interior neckband as you go. Now grab your sleeves and serge each of the sleeve underarm seams separately, just as we did for the main side seams. Now that I've serged these seams, I'm going to fold it in half right sides together and pin. Do this for both sleeves and then sew with a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and then press your seams open. Now attach your sleeves to each armhole, right sides together, matching your notches. And continue pinning all the way around. Sew each sleeve with a 3/8 inch seam allowance and serge. I've gone ahead and pressed my sleeve hem to the inside so that I can create a double fold of 5/8 and then 5/8 again. Once it's folded over on itself, I'm going to stitch all around the sleeve hem, about 1/8 of an inch away from this inner fold. Do this for both sleeves. Using a marking pen, I marked where I'm going to be making my buttonholes according to the placement markings on my pattern piece. Now I'm going to take my right placket to my sewing machine and make these buttonholes. I've sewn all my buttonholes and opened them up. Now I've laid the right placket over the left, and I'm going to mark where I want each button to go on the left panel. I'm just aligning the button plackets and using a pin to mark that center point. Now that I've marked where I want each button to go with a pin, I'm going to hand stitch each button in the center of that button placket, aligning it with my pin marking. Once your buttons are all sewn on, you're done with your dress. Thank you for watching this sew along. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share, and also check out my other videos for more great sew alongs. I'll see you next time.